well-wisher to express my appreciation to both these gorgeous, sizzling ladies who are not only gorgeous and sizzling, but who have also produced a most wonderfully written, thoroughly researched, very informative and somewhat disturbing book. I felt it was imperative for me to offer support to this. Not because I'm a writer or anything, but because I feel it's very important that this book come out and be read. For the same reason as my involvement with the art cinema. When I became an actor, it was really to become famous and rich. It was not to serve art. But as it happened, my reputation got consolidated via the art movies. And I had this young nephew who was following my career avidly and would always ask me why I do these movies. And I'd say, well, because they're good movies. And he said, no, I don't think they're good movies. A good movie is one which entertains you and which transports you into a dream world. And why do you do these films? You don't even get paid for them. I really didn't have an answer. But I kept doing these movies, and over the years, I realized why. It was my responsibility to help these films out, whether I was being paid or not, because they were a record of their times. And that is what I think the function of serious cinema is. I don't think cinema can change the world, and I don't think it can really be used as a medium of education, but its most important function, to my mind, is to act as a record of its times. Perhaps only cinema can do that. For the same reason, I think this book is extremely important. It may not entertain millions and take you into a world of fantasy, but it will give you the facts, place them before you, and leave you objectively to draw your own conclusions. Now, I thought that, I had no idea I was going to be addressed as the Ayatollah of acting and the mountain of eloquence and so on, so I have to live up to that somehow. I thought that just my glamorous presence would suffice, but I was told and introspect deeply on the right kind of education for the generations to follow. It is something that we really need to think deeply about and help set right wherever we can. It is time to bury old skeletons forever, not keep uncovering them. It is time to stop spreading hate. And it is time that we really thought deeply about why religion, which could be the most beautiful thing on earth, is turning into perhaps the ugliest.
Hello. Thank you all for being here. It's an amazing place to be, and I'm sure Nazia would agree with me. Both of us started writing this book. The seed actually germinated sometime after 5 people were sentenced to death last year for perpetrating these attacks. And 8 of them were sentenced to life imprisonment. Sometime in January, I was sitting at my desk with a ton of papers collected from every source possible, and I was at the verge of giving up. And that's when my godmother, she's not here, I get a call from her and she says, Sharmeen, don't give up. There's a story that you have to tell, and it has to be there. And I know for a fact that this is also something that drives Nazia and that drove the both of us to write this book. There were several times during the writing of this book that we wanted to give up. It's very difficult. If anybody says writing a book is a cakewalk, they lie. It takes a lot of hard work. And I'm glad we got through those days, and that's why we have today. A little about the blast. So a little about the blast. Something that probably everybody already knows. On 11th of July 2006, 189 people lost their lives and 829 people were left injured. But the number of families that were ruined, there are no words to describe the feeling that we went through, the two of us, when we interviewed these families, when we got to know their stories. But the heart of the book lies in the 9-year-long trial. For us, It had more twists and turns than any case I have reported. I report on courts and Nazia on crime. So more twists and turns than any case we've reported. I'll just tell you a little bit about that. Firstly, in this case, a completely different terror organization suddenly propped up 2 years later saying we were the ones behind the blast. Now for 13 people who are behind bars and for their families, this is really shocking. How is it that a completely different set of people are responsible for the blast? But the trial went on and 5 of them were sentenced to death last year. Apart from that, the book talks about the connection with slain 2611 lawyer Shah. I'm sure everybody knows about him. This was the first case that he took to a trust and said that these people need to be defended. Before this day, people accused in terror attacks would be tried and would be easily convicted. So this was the first case that gave the accused a defense. There was a defense and they were able to point out several loopholes, whether in the investigation or otherwise. It was one of the longest trials. It lasted for 9 years. And just one fact, Parag Sawant's family, who became the 189th victim of the blast, expired just a month before the verdict could be pronounced. And it was so bad for the family that it took a lot of probing for them to talk. And I am glad we have a little bit about him in the book, and I'm sure everybody would relate to it, because everyone has a mom, has a dad who waits for them at home, and then sometimes they just don't show up, and then that's not okay.
Last was my first terror attack coverage. I was an intern at that time, a trainee, and I had heard stories. 93 blast में ऐसा हुआ था, यहाँ पे ऐसा हुआ था. These are the terrorists and everything. But that was my first experience when I was on field and I covered these attacks. And today, writing a book on the same 7/11 attack is, for me, it's a huge achievement. And thanks to Hussain sir. It was Hussain sir who threw that challenge towards us. He had this wonderful concept in his mind, and he was like, as Sharmeen said, the verdict was being announced, and he was like, this is an interesting story people would want to know, and why don't you write a book on it? Initially, yes, we were like, okay. We thought it was very easy because being a reporter, I had covered it when it had happened. Sharmeen has covered it when it was in court. So we thought it was an easy job, and it would have, it would have been jaldi khatam ho jayega types. But when we started writing, we realized that there was much more to tell, much more to know, much more to investigate. We have raised several questions. We have not passed any judgment. We have not come to any conclusion as such. We're not blaming anyone, we're not taking sides. But as reporters, we have raised a lot of questions which forces you to think that ये लोग जो आज arrest हुए हैं, जो आज सलाखों के पीछे हैं, are they really the ones behind the blast? Are they really the terrorists? If yes, then why are so many of these questions left unanswered? I wouldn't want to spoil, your interest in the book, and I really want you all to read the book. That's why we wouldn't say more about it. But yes, it was an interesting journey, a very exciting journey to write this book. And today, with Naseer sir releasing the book, it's a great honor for us. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, talking of raising questions, I'm definitely sure our audience out here have a couple of questions to ask our charismatizing personas here on stage. So who would like to go first?
there is still the tension going between India and Pakistan. And for that, we have planned the movie Aid Hai Mushkil. So, what is your stand towards it? Are you in favor or not?
Well, I would definitely would want to see Naseer sir in the book because he is in the film because he is my favorite actor.
What about you, sir?
My
My question is to the author. So you were writing about something on which judgment has already been passed, and we know how difficult it is to, not attract any, contempt of court and all while writing that. So how do you manage to give that balance in your writing?
Okay, so the edge that you have when you're a journalist is that you're supposed to take both the sides. You approach both the sides and you give the other side a chance to talk. So that as a journalist, really, as a writer, really helps you because you know that there is another side of the story. So when you talk about the prosecution's case in court, you also talk about what was the defense in court. Did they really have something to say? Because a lot of times we get lost in the nitty-gritties. But those nitty-gritties lead us to something much, much bigger when it comes to cases in court. Cases that are hyped sometimes fall apart in court. They don't always hold. But yes, to answer the question, approaching both the sides and representing both the sides fairly without any biases is what we've done in the book.
Actually,